Okay, so when you close your eyes and picture a monster, what pops into your head? Be honest.
I mean, usually. Something big.
Yeah.
Something with claws,
Right.
Godzilla destroying a city, maybe a werewolf.
Exactly. Something brutish. We tend to associate monstrous things with, like, a lack of control.
Chaos, smashing things,
Yes.
noise.
Yes. But, and here is where today's deep dive gets a little unnerving, and frankly, why I couldn't stop thinking about this material. What if the real monster, the one that can actually do the most damage to your reality, isn't brutish at all?
What if it's the opposite?
What if they are incredibly articulate, highly fluent, and depthly insightful?
It's a disturbing thought. We're wired to fear the primitive, the wild part of nature. But the research we're looking at today suggests that the most dangerous predation doesn't come from the primitive brain. It comes from the most sophisticated, evolved part of the human mind.
We are diving into a fascinating analysis titled The Sage and the Monster. It covers the ethics of interpretation, and honestly, reading through this, it messed with my head a little bit.
Oh, sure, good.
It makes you replay old conversations and wonder, wait, what actually happened there?
It's heavy stuff, but it's essential. I mean, the core mission of this deep dive is to look at how high-level communication skills fluency can be weaponized.
Right.
We want to help you spot the difference between being connected with and being managed.
Managed. Ugh, that is such a creepy word in the context of, like, a relationship or a friendship.
It is.
You manage a project, you don't manage a person you respect.
It is creepy. But as we get into this, you'll see it's the perfect word for this dynamic.
So let's unpack the basic definition here first. The sources talk about a monster, but they aren't talking about, serial killers or movie villains. How are they defining this? Because usually we think of a monster as someone who lacks humanity or intelligence.
Right. So to understand the monster in this specific context, you actually have to understand the sage first. The source defines the monster not as the opposite of a sage, but as an unbalanced sage.
An unbalanced sage? That sounds like a contradiction.
It does.
I thought a sage was balanced by definition.
Well, let's break down the mechanics. Think of a sage as someone with high vertical capacity. They understand wisdom, symbolism, metaphor.
Okay.
They don't just see a tree. They see the cycle of life. They see the subtext of a conversation, not just the words. They operate on that higher abstract level.
Okay, so they're deep, they get the nuance, they can read between the lines.
Highly smart, highly fluent. The unbalanced sage, the monster, has all of that same capacity.
Okay, so just as smart.
Just as smart. They have access to that deep vertical meaning. But here is the fatal flaw, the thing that twists it. They have abandoned literal responsibility.
Literal responsibility. I need you to break that down for me. That sounds like something my accountant would say.
It means they operate effectively only in that vertical symbolic layer, and they detach themselves from the shared concrete reality that binds people together.
So they only care about what things mean.
Or what they can make them mean. They have zero loyalty to what things actually are.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize this. Can we use an analogy?
Absolutely. Let's use the architecture analogy from the notes. I think it's the clearest one.
Okay.
Imagine you're an architect. A sage is an architect who designs a beautiful, complex building. It has soaring arches, meaningful aesthetics. It tells a story. But the sage also knows that gravity is real.
Right. They need a foundation.
They know you need a foundation of cement. They know the floor has to support weight.
Right. Pretty standard.
Now imagine the monster. The monster is an architect who draws these impossible, Escher-like structures. They look profound on paper. They're mesmerizing. They're full of vision.
But
if you try to actually walk into the building, you fall into a void because there's no floor.
the floor is missing.
The floor is the shared reality. The monster removes the floor but keeps the decoration. They want you to live in the symbolism, but they refuse to provide the concrete ground to stand on.
And the source has a name for this.
It does. They call it predatory fluency.
Ooh, that sticks with you. Predatory fluency. It sounds like a vampire with a thesaurus.
In a way, it is. It creates a situation where the speaker can manipulate interpretation without being accountable to the concrete facts.
Because they refuse to ground their speech in the literal.
In what is actually physically happening or being said, yeah. They can shift the meaning constantly.
It feels like playing a game where only one person knows the rules, and they change the rules every time you're about to score a point.
Precisely. And because they're fluent, because they are good with words and concepts, they can make it sound like you are the one who is confused.
Like you're just not smart enough to get it.
Right. Like you just aren't sensitive enough to get the deeper meaning.
This brings us to a tactic the sources mention called weaponized ambiguity. I found this fascinating because we usually think of ambiguity as a weakness.
Right. Like, oh, he was being vague because he didn't know the answer.
Exactly.
Right.
But this is different. This is calculated.
Very different. Weaponized ambiguity is intentional. It's when harm is delivered through tone, context, or symbolism, but the speaker maintains plausible deniability on the literal plane.
Okay, can we role play this for a second just to ground it? Because I feel like everyone has experienced this, but maybe they couldn't name it.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's say we're coworkers. We're in a big meeting with the boss, and I pitch an idea, and you say, well, that's certainly a bold strategy given your history with these projects.
Coach, okay, I felt the temperature drop in the room.
Right. The tone suggests I'm incompetent. The history implies I've failed before. Everyone in the room feels the dig.
It's an attack.
It's an attack. But if I confront you, if I say, hey, why are you undermining me in front of the boss?
If you confront me, I retreat to the literal. I use the escape hatch.
The escape hatch.
I look at you, completely innocent, eyes wide, and say, what? I just said it was bold. Bold is good.
Yeah.
And you do have a history with these projects. I was complimenting your experience. Why are you being so defensive?
God, my blood pressure just went up. That is infuriating.
It's infuriating because it works. And this is the key to the monster. The literal text, bold, history, is defensible.
It's neutral.
It's neutral. But the meaning, the interpretive layer, was an attack. The monster uses the literal layer only as a bunker to hide in when challenged.
Never as a foundation to build on.
Exactly.
So the accountability is totally avoided because the harm lived in the structure, not the words. And the result is that the listener says, we're left questioning our own reality. Did I make that up? Am I being too sensitive? Maybe he really did mean it as a compliment.
And that brings us to the mechanism of harm. Why is this so dangerous? It's not just annoying. The source makes a distinction that I find crucial. This behavior shifts the dynamic from communication to management.
There was a quote in the notes, if I don't know I'm being guided, I'm being managed. That hit me hard.
It is about the loss of consent. Think about it. If I am speaking to you and I'm operating on a level of hidden meaning that I refuse to acknowledge or share with you,
then I can't consent to the conversation we're actually having.
You can't.
Whoa, that is heavy. So going back to the coworker example, I think we're having a conversation about a project.
But I'm actually having a conversation about establishing dominance in the hierarchy.
Correct. You are participating in a script you haven't read. You are an actor in a play, but only the other person has the script.
That is terrifying.
It's like being an extra in someone else's movie.
The sources use the metaphor of the fake map. The monster forces the listener to navigate a curated version of reality. They hand you a map that looks real. It has streets, landmarks, but they've moved the landmarks just enough to guide you where they want you to go, not where you think you are going.
And this creates what the text calls interpretive asymmetry.
Yes, a power differential. The speaker has full information. They know the literal text and their hidden intent. The listener has partial information. They only have the text.
And this leads to destabilization. I mean, it's basically gaslighting, isn't it?
It is the structural mechanism of gaslighting, yes, but it's gaslighting with a PhD. The ultimate result is that the listener stops evaluating reality and starts questioning their own perception. You stop looking at the world and asking, is this true? And start looking at yourself and asking, am I crazy?
Which is exactly where the monster wants you, because if you don't trust your own eyes, who do you have to trust?
You have to trust their interpretation of the world. You become dependent on their fluency.
You outsource your reality testing.
To the very person manipulating it.
Okay, so that's the nightmare scenario. That's the monster. But we promised a sage, too. We don't want to leave everyone feeling paranoid. The text calls the sage disciplined integration. How is that different? Because the sage is also deep, right? They also use symbolism and metaphor. They aren't just robots reading facts.
They do. But remember the definition of the monster.
Yeah.
An unbalanced sage. The true sage represents the disciplined balance between layers.
So they have the vertical depth, but they keep their feet on the ground.
Yes. The sage reads meaning vertically. They see the patterns, the symbols, the why, but they speak in a way that remains accountable to shared reality.
Accountable to shared reality. That seems to be the key phrase.
It means they use the literal layer to hold the interpretive layer, not to escape it.
Okay.
When a sage speaks, the literal words and the deeper meaning are aligned. They aren't fighting each other.
But wait, I want to push back on this a little bit because sometimes a teacher or a wise person does hide the full truth, right? Like you don't teach quantum physics to a kindergartner.
No, you don't.
You simplify. You use metaphors that aren't technically literally true.
This is a vital nuance. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because if we aren't careful, we might label every teacher or parent a monster just because they use a metaphor.
Yeah.
The sources distinguish between scaffolding and manipulation.
And the example they gave, I love this, was Santa Claus.
Yes, the Santa Claus defense. It's the perfect test case.
So explain this, because technically telling your kid about Santa is a lie.
It is.
It's a fabrication. It's a fake map. So are parents being monsters?
According to this framework, no. And this is where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the intent and the structure. The story of Santa Claus is a literal fiction. But what is the purpose?
To make Christmas magical, to teach them about giving.
Exactly. It is a container. The parent uses the literal story of Santa to guide the child toward a higher truth, the spirit of generosity, the joy of giving, without taking credit, that the child isn't cognitively ready to grasp in the abstract yet.
So it's scaffolding. You build the temporary structure to help the building go up.
And here's the crucial difference, the thing that separates the sage from the monster. Eventually, you take the scaffolding down. The parent wants the child to eventually understand the higher truth and no longer need the Santa story. The intent is growth.
Whereas with the monster,
The intent is control. The monster withholds the structural reality to exploit the listener's lack of fluency. They don't want you to grow into the truth. They want you to stay lost in their maze so they can keep leading you.
they build a cage, not scaffolding.
That's a good way to put it. It really does come down to intent and grounding. One is trying to lift you up, the other is trying to tie you down.
And this brings us to the ultimate metaphor in the source material. It references a very old story to wrap this concept up. Cain and Abel.
Yeah, this part was wild. I mean, most people know the story. Two brothers. Cain kills Abel.
Right, but the source flips the script on what that actually means structurally.
It does. So in this framework, the source assigns specific roles to the brothers based on their professions in the biblical text. It treats them as archetypes of communication.
Okay, walk us through it.
Cain is the tiller of the ground. He works the earth. He represents literalism,
The concrete.
the physical, the undeniable reality of the soil and the sweat.
Okay, he's the facts, the what is.
Right. And Abel is the keeper of sheep. He's nomadic. He deals in sacrifice, in smoke rising to heaven. He represents interpretive depth, symbolism, the spirit.
He's the meaning, the why.
Exactly. Now, a healthy mind, a sage, keeps Cain and Abel in conversation. You need the ground and you need the sky.
You need the literal facts and you need the deeper meaning.
They coexist. They support each other.
But the monster.
The monster is an Abel who has killed Cain.
Whoa. Okay, let's sit with that. Usually in the story, it's Cain killing Abel. But here, they're saying the monster state is when the symbol kills the concrete.
It represents symbolism that has destroyed its own foundation.
Yeah.
When Abel kills Cain, you have interpretation overriding reality rather than illuminating it.
You have hyperbole effectively murdering the facts.
it.
That is such a powerful image. An Abel who has killed Cain. It's like someone who is so obsessed with what things mean or what they want them to mean that they destroy what things are.
Precisely. And that is the definition of madness, or in this case, the definition of the monster. It is not just lying. Lying is just painting over the truth. This is the annihilation of the shared ground where truth can even be established.
Yeah.
When you kill Cain, you kill the only place we can actually meet.
That explains why arguing with someone like this feels so impossible. You're trying to point to the ground and they're floating in the sky telling you the ground doesn't exist.
And the more you argue facts, the more they twist the meaning. Because they aren't bound by the facts. They've sacrificed the facts to feed their narrative.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener? Because we live in a world that feels increasingly full of this. We are drowning in spin, in narratives. It feels like we're constantly being managed.
It's incredibly relevant. The monster isn't just a person. It's a mode of communication we see everywhere.
Yeah.
We see it in advertising that sells you a lifestyle while selling you a toxic product. We see it in politics, where the narrative matters more than the policy. And yes, we see it in toxic relationships, where your partner tells you that your memory of an event is just your perspective.
The takeaway for me is that wisdom isn't just about being deep. It's about being real.
Yes. The summary here is that the monster is not someone who lacks knowledge. It is someone who uses knowledge to escape reality. True wisdom requires keeping your feet on the ground. The literal, even while your head is in the clouds.
And recognizing that interpretive asymmetry, that power gap, is a
Mhm.
superpower. When you feel like you're crazy, when you feel like you're being managed,
You need to check for the ground. You need to stop arguing the meaning and start checking the facts. You need to ask, is this person accountable to what they just said, or are they using the meaning to escape the words?
it stops you from being a pawn in someone else's game.
It restores your consent. And once you see the mechanism, once you see the escape hatch, it loses its power. You don't have to get angry. You just have to realize, oh, they aren't building a house. They're painting a picture and pretending it's a house.
And then you can choose whether or not to walk in.
Exactly.
I love that. It's like turning on the lights in the haunted house. Suddenly the monster is just a sheet on a broomstick. Okay, we're wrapping up, but we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. This comes directly from the implications of the sources.
It is a question to ask yourself the next time you find yourself in a confusing conversation. If you feel lost, ask, is this person using ambiguity to open a door for me or to build a maze around me?
That is the crucial difference.
It is. The difference between a teacher and a monster might just be whether they hand you a map or hide it.
Deep stuff. As always, thanks for diving in with us.
Thank you.
Stay grounded, everyone. We'll see you in the next deep dive.